Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on the video. Friday, July 4th, that's right, 4th of July back in the USA. So happy holiday to everybody back in the USA. Of course, by the time you're watching this, the holiday will have come and gone, but hopefully you had a nice time. Obviously it's not really a holiday in Lithuania. As a side note, along the theme of July 4th, not sure if any of you knew this, but fireworks are quite popular. That's the thing on the July 4th in the USA, but fireworks here in Lithuania are popular on New Year's Eve, not really on any other day. So we enjoy fireworks here in Lithuania in the middle of winter, sometimes in the cold, obviously New Year's Eve. But it was a busy week, good week, weather-wise, very good. Actually, it was the first full week I would consider that was summer-like. You know, we've had plenty of days in the past that were summer-like, but you know, this whole week really felt like summer. I've got a short clip coming up later on for yesterday, July 3rd. It was quite hot, very hot. In Fahrenheit, you know, maybe around 80 or a little warmer. In Celsius, I don't know, 25, 26. But it was quite warm, but shortly after that, in late afternoon, the temperature went down to, I don't know, in the 60s in Fahrenheit, upper teens in Celsius, and the wind picked up. So it changed quickly, but you know, that happens. But the whole week's been nice. Beautiful day today, as you can see. It's still early morning. I do actually have to work today. As I mentioned in past videos, I still do have a normal job. It's a part-time job, although it feels like full-time sometimes. But I do work a mix of Europe hours and US hours. So I kind of work late afternoons, early evenings here in Lithuania, depends on the day. But I was supposed to have the day off because I am still technically a US employee, but I kind of switched my day off to having Monday off instead. But anyhow, I'm not sure exactly everything that I'll have in this week's video. I'm going to get turned around here. I'm taking a little side road that's getting a little grassy. I got to be careful about ticks, plus I don't know what I'm going to walk into out here, so I'll turn around. But I've got a real short clip on hot air balloons. Normally we see a lot of hot air balloons, and for whatever reason they launch them right near our house. But this year has been so windy and the weather really hasn't been that great. Hasn't been a whole lot of them, but there was one the other night. I did capture that on film. I think I'll have a couple other various clips, but the main portion of this week's video, something I've been planning to do. I've mentioned it in past videos where I don't remember the exact date, but it was early July, 8 years ago, that the shipping container arrived here in Lithuania from the US, and that's kind of when I consider me moving to Lithuania. I wasn't living here full-time immediately after that, but I really started spending the majority of my time here. So it's been 8 years. So I do want to talk about, actually look at that. Those are moose tracks right there. No doubt about it, moose. Back to what I was saying. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, do I regret it, you know, moving to Lithuania? Would I have been happier in the States? I think you guys already know the answer to that, but it's a little more complicated than you might think. There's definitely some things I would have done differently, but again, I'll go into all that later on. But I don't know if I'll give you a full garden update this week. You know, it's pretty much the same as last week, although things are cranking right along. I mean, the peas are ready to eat soon. A lot of activity. Our strawberries actually are winding down. You might think, wow, you didn't get a lot. And we didn't really get a lot. It's because it's the first year for those plants. We put in those raised boxes last fall and put in all new plants, and generally the first year for a plant, they don't produce a whole lot. It's the second and third year they'll start producing a lot more. And after 5-6 years, you gotta replace them, if not sooner, put in fresh ones. But anyhow, I'll wrap this up and get back to the main portion of the video. Hope you guys have a great week, and thanks again for clicking on the video. So as mentioned in the intro, it's been 8 years since I moved to Lithuania. And I did want to take a chance to kind of talk about, do I regret it? And, the short answer is no. I don't regret it. But while I go into some of the details, hopefully this won't be too long or too boring, but I think it's only fair that I go into a little bit more detail. But rather than you looking at my face, I just decided to throw in a clip of me riding the ATV in the forest this week. You've probably seen, if you've seen my past videos, I spend a lot of time in the forest, but I didn't start this channel till last fall. So really, you've never seen what it looks like in the summertime when all the leaves are on the trees, etc. It's really a nice, beautiful area. But nonetheless, again, back to my move to Lithuania. Again, do I regret it? No. It's I'm definitely happier today than I was 8 years ago overall. But there's definitely some things that I would have done differently. It doesn't really change my feelings about regret or not regret, but the whole what I decided to put into the shipping container and some of the other things that I had done, I would definitely do differently. But some of the other things, I was a bit naive at the time. In those days, 8 years ago, I was making quite a few trips, maybe 2-3 trips a year back and forth between the States and Europe. And it just seemed easy, and I was making a lot more money back in those days than I do now. So, for me to just pop over to the US and, for example, spend some time or visit my family, is just the logistics of it all, and the cost is just something that I didn't really foresee back then. Other things related to that is, as you guys know, there's been a lot going on with immigration and different changes. And, honestly, it's a pain to travel nowadays back to the States. Even if you're a U.S. citizen, you get a lot of, at least from my standpoint, you get a lot of questions. And logistically, it's just not a real thing. So, that's something that I kind of wish I'd have known more about. It doesn't change, my decision about moving here, or, if I could rewind time, would I choose not to move here? Of course not. I would still have done it. But, there's the obvious things where, I do, or I did make some sacrifices by coming here. And, one of those is, obviously, I don't see family and friends as often as I'd like. There's other small things that I just really miss. It's not that, it would change my decision. But for example, some days, especially a day like today, a nice, beautiful summer day, I'd give anything to, go to Sebula, Iowa, and go for a nice boat ride on the Mississippi River. Other things like that. And things like funerals, which aren't fun, obviously, and the fact that there is a funeral means somebody has passed on. But as I get older in age, a lot of people, either around my age or, of course, my parents' age, are starting to pass on. And I just feel a little bit bad. I really, if I was in the States, I would attend more of these funerals just to kind of pay my respects. But as far as some of the other things, actually living in Lithuania, at least for me, it is much harder than it was living in the U.S. When I lived in the U.S., my life was easy. I lived a charmed life. Everything was easy. I didn't need help from anybody to do anything. And here in Lithuania, everything is a struggle, from shopping, banking, my poor language skills, basically just how things get done. I'm not trying to say that Lithuania, it does things the wrong way. They just do things in many ways different than they're done in the U.S. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating, but again, I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different, and it's frustrating for me at times, that I need so much help from my wife or other people just to get the simplest thing done. Another thing, the weather. When it really boils down to it, even though I do like the summers here in Lithuania, the overall weather I preferred in Wisconsin. Usually we got a proper winter. Any of you that know me know that I do love winter, and sometimes we don't really get a proper winter here. And spring and fall can kind of be hit and miss. Although this year the spring was pretty decent, but I do miss the weather in the states, or at least more specifically in Wisconsin. But as far as the future, the thought of moving back to the states just makes me cringe. That was really a tough move, especially if you're going to send all your belongings. But never say never. I couldn't rule it out. I really don't see myself moving back to the states, but everything from immigration and just the logistics, now that I'm getting older and going to officially retire here in the near future, just the simple accessing money in my US bank accounts can get a little tricky when I'm here. So again, in summary, do I regret it? No. I'm very happy that I came to Lithuania, but there are some times where I have some hesitations and kind of think, what would life have been like if I'd have stayed in the States? And I'm sure it would be fine. I'm sure I'd be a happy person, but I just get fulfillment out of how and where I live right now. Thanks for hanging with me on this. Hi everyone. Thursday, July 3rd. It's a scorcher here today, at least by Lithuanian standards. I think we're at about 25 Celsius, which is nearly 80 in Fahrenheit. I do also realize that's not that hot compared to what some people in the US and Southern Europe have been seeing recently. I know it's been quite a scorcher there too, but for us this is hot. You can see I've even popped the panel out of the back of the greenhouse just to try to keep things cool in there. Got all the roof lids wide open, so fingers crossed that everything copes with the heat. You can see the leaves on our cucumbers in the greenhouse are all withered up, but that's normal. They'll spring back. So there's the new terrace furniture I talked about in last video. Not sure why we needed new, but it is nice. But more importantly, we've got a front row seat to something that happens here in the summertime. A hot air balloon. They launched them just across the little river from us. You can't see it quite yet. I may have to cut some of this out or edit some of it out, but you'll see it, or you might see it kind of going through the trees there. In the meantime, Pippa got a haircut this week. And there it goes. You see this a lot here in the summertime when it's a quiet night, not a lot of wind. You'll see them in the very early morning as well, but nice to have a front row seat. And I'll leave you guys with just a quick rundown of the garden and greenhouse and a nice stork that was caught on my trail cam. Thanks for clicking on the video. Talk to you next week.